Imagine walking in the grocery store and picking up your usual items, and when you get to the checkout, bam! The total is way higher than last week. And then you think to yourself, did I buy something extra? Well, that's the hidden effect of what's happening right now in the global economy. Because while the news is throwing around words right now like tariffs, trade wars, retaliation, what they really mean is more expensive groceries, higher prices on stuff, and it all started on one major move on February 1st, 2025. The big move, Trump's tariff war, begins. On that day, President Donald Trump dropped a trade bombshell. 25% tariffs on all imports from Canada and Mexico, and a 10% tariff on China. His reasoning? Number one, he claimed that Canada and Mexico were not doing enough to stop illegal immigration. He accused China of flooding the US with cheap goods, hurting American businesses. I don't see the lies there, but are tariffs the correct action to take? Trump's words, America will no longer be taken advantage of. We are taking back control of the trade. That sounds strong, but here's the problem. When you hit other countries with tariffs, they hit back. And they hit back pretty fast. The backlash. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, yeah, that guy, he wasn't about to take this lightly. His response, a 25% tariffs on US fruits, vegetables, clothing, and household goods. He called out for a boycott on American products. I'm not sure about the power of that call, because I know most of his Canadian citizens are already boycotting him. He declared, we will not be bullied by America's unfair policies. In Mexico, President Claudia Sheinbaum was just as furious. Though she has not announced her exact counterattack, if she even has one. Experts predict a tariff on US farm products, higher taxes on American businesses in Mexico. Moving on to China, they filed a lawsuit on the World Trade Organization, WTO. They initiated banning major US imports like iPhones, Teslas, soybeans. Taking control means people won't be happy. When you take control of your own life, when you take charge and you start to impose your will, a lot of people aren't going to be happy. Usually the people who won't be happy are the people with some sort of control over you, because they would lose a degree of power. Listen, in spite of all these turbulence, when you stop being a yes man, people are not going to be happy with you. And that's just how it is. If you just kiss people's butts all day, and yeah, all these people are happy, but you're also kissing butts all day. And that's not how I choose to live. It's also not what I want for my country. I mean, Canada literally was not very nice to us. Did you know that they were charging the US up to 270% on tariffs? 270%. Right now, 25% on Trump, and they're complaining. And this wasn't many years ago. This was like COVID, when they were charging 270% on dairies. Plus, all those truck drivers that Trudeau screwed, some of those were American truck drivers. So when you take a stand against the bullies, they're not going to take it lightly. That's expected. But that doesn't mean you back down. So when you initially stand up to your bullies, there's some discomfort. There's a struggle. But eventually the dust settles. The person who wins comes out victorious, liberated, and in a better position. And the person who got defeated, well, they could be down on the ground or not. But one thing's for sure, when you stand up to your bullies, the bully will not mess with you again. I'm curious how this dust will settle. I know, the United States is pretty much a bully too. But if I would pick a side, I would bet on the side of the United States. Number one is our euro-dollar system. So it's a crazy large network that I apologize that I haven't really spent much time explaining here in my channel, but I will. Sure, China and Brazil and others are trying to introduce their BRICS currency, but that's been going on for over a decade. And where's that going? You see, the true power of the US dollar is because the rest of the world have a dollar-denominated debt. And because of that, the United States can dump their inflation into the rest of the world. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but that's just how the system is. I'm gonna make videos to explain the dollar milkshake theory and the euro-dollar system, but for now you can look up YouTubers like Brent Johnson, who actually created the dollar milkshake theory. And there's my macro idol George Gammon, rebel capitalist. And also there's Jeff Snyder with Eurodollar University. Check them out, I'm a big fan of these guys. And then number two, why I would bet on the US. Nearly every one of these other countries right now are either in recession or in the brink of one. China, Brazil, Canada, Germany. The tariff war is a game of, like a mind control game. It's a competition. And I'm not sure if these other countries can really compete. See, I'm a free market capitalism kind of guy. I'm always going to be in favor of less government than more government. I want people to freely do businesses with each other. As a capitalist, that's all the government is usually for me. Throw rocks on a smooth road. To me, the government just makes it hard for people who are trying to innovate and provide for society. But if I would pick tariff versus income tax, I'd pick tariffs all day. Unlike income tax, where they just take your money before you even see it, tariffs, well, you get to pick what you're taxed on. Hey, if fruits are expensive, then maybe fruits are just a bunch of sugars and carbohydrates. And judging from all the sizes of our American people, we don't really need a lot of sugar and carbohydrates anymore. I mean, there's a lot of alternatives to get my potassium or vitamin A. If a product has a high tariff, I can just choose not to buy it. Maybe there's alternatives, or maybe sometimes there aren't, but at least there's some choice. So between the two, tariffs and income tax, I'd take tariffs all day. But that's if I get to choose between the two. Income tax has zero choice. They just take your money outright before you even get it. But Trump didn't really promise that having tariffs would eliminate income tax. I certainly don't want both. I mean, there's no way any politician or government will eliminate income tax. That's just too good to be true. Or is it?
Doubled down on his message, cut taxes for the American people. He even floated the idea of abolishing the federal income tax altogether.
Oh, no.
You know, the United States in 1870 to 1913, all tariffs, and that was the richest period in the history of the United States. The income tax came in 1913. As I said in my speech last week, instead of taxing our citizens to enrich foreign nations, we should be tariffing and taxing foreign nations to enrich our citizens.
But what is this tariffs really doing? What is it doing right now? It's calling out to us to be producers instead of consumers, to look at the fact that we have choices instead of being a victim of circumstances, to be independent instead of relying on foreign goods, to build instead of beg, to create instead of consume. If we produced more and consumed less, we wouldn't need to rely on China, Canada, or Mexico. Maybe the reason we're too scared of this is because we're just consumers to the core. Alright, you're probably watching right now and thinking, alright, I get it, James. We should not be bullied as a country, and we should probably be smarter consumers. If anything, we should be producers. But how will this affect me if I'm just a consumer? Great question. Here's how it plays out. Your groceries will likely get more expensive. Mexico supplies about 40% of fruits and vegetables. So maybe expect higher prices on avocados, tomatoes, berries, and more. Buying a car? Well, car manufacturers rely on Canadian and Mexican parts. A 25% tariff, that cost will usually get passed on to the consumers. Tech prices. Phones, laptops, appliances. Made in China. Made in China. All these stuff made in China. PlayStations and TVs. So we will see how that all plays out. If you're going to start a tariff battle, you have to be nearly independent and not need other countries. Are we in that state right now in the US? Maybe not. And then does this mean we're headed for a recession? I mean, with the Psalms rule, the inverted yield curve, the Buffett indicator saying the stock market is ridiculously overpriced, Case-Shiller index of home prices, we should be on a recession anyway. Everything's just overpriced and overvalued. But the real question is, who's gonna blink first? Will Trump back down? Not likely. Will Canada, Mexico, or China back down? I don't know. So this could turn into a painful economic fight. And you, the consumer, is caught in the middle. Or we can answer the call and be less of a consumer, be smarter consumers, and produce what we can for our country. For more investing, finance, real estate, and macroeconomics, let's all learn wealthy together. I'll see you in the next video.